welcome to this week's edition of the Bond Room Unlocked, where we take an item from this 26-year-old Bond collection and relate it to one of the films that we know and love. And this week it is the 1997 film Tomorrow Never Dies. Now, Q, Quartermaster, Major Boothroyd if you want to be formal, one of the most popular and regular characters across the 25 films, brought to life by Peter Burton in Doctor No, Desmond Llewellyn in 17 of the Bond films, and more recently Ben Whishaw in the Daniel Craig era of films. Now, we all have our favourites, but for me, no one can beat the dulcet tones of Desmond Llewellyn's Q, first seen in From Russia with Love in 1963, showing Bond that attache case.
Q Branch has put together a smart-looking piece of luggage for us. We're issuing this to all 00 personnel.
An ordinary black leather case with 20 rounds of ammunition here and here. Now, if you take the top off, you'll find the ammunition inside. On the side here, flat throwing knife. Press that button there, and out she comes. Inside the case, you'll find an AR-7 folding sniper's rifle, .25 caliber, with an infrared telescopic sight. Then, if you pull out these straps, inside are 50 gold sovereigns, 25 in either side. Now, watch very carefully. An ordinary tin of talcum powder. Inside, a tear gas cartridge. That goes in the case against the side here like that. It's magnetized so it won't fall. Shut the case. Now, normally to open a case like that, you move the catches to the side. If you do, the cartridge will explode in your face. Now, to stop the cartridge exploding, turn the catches horizontally, like that. Then, open normally. Now you try it.
Turn the catches like that.
That's right.
And open ordinarily.
You got it?
Yes, I think so.
Is that all, sir?
Yes, thanks very much.
Right. Joe?
Yeah, it's a nasty little Christmas present.
Now, as we are fans of the films, we have become accustomed to Q's little scenes with Bond, whether that be in Q Branch or out on the field, or Q Let Loose, as we like to call it. And these can provide some of the funniest scenes within the films.
My favourite Q scene has to be License to Kill, because I really like how that was the first time that Q got an expanded role, really. One of the first times, also Octopussy. But I like how he was interwoven into the story. And while I do like License to Kill because it is dark, I like how whenever Q is added to the story, he adds a bit of a lighter touch to it. I thought that was very nice.
I totally agree with Andrew that Q's scenes do provide some much needed humour in License to Kill's darker plot. But they have the tone just right. It's not silly, as in maybe some of the more scenes that we see. It's definitely a welcome break, and it's definitely a smart move by the scriptwriters. Now, one of my favourite Q scenes is from our related film of choice, Tomorrow Never Dies. We see Q dressed as an Avis car rental employee, much to the amusement of Bond.
If you just sign here, Mr. Bond. It's the insurance damage waiver for your beautiful new car. Will you need collision coverage?
Yes,
Fire?
probably.
Property destruction?
Definitely.
Personal injury?
I hope not, but accidents do happen.
They frequently do with you.
Well, that takes care of the normal wear and tear. Do I need any other protection?
Only from B007, unless you bring that car back in pristine order. Shall we?
Shall we?
We certainly get the feeling that Q hasn't got time for Bond's silliness. One, he definitely doesn't want to be in Hamburg having to deal with Bond, and 2, he doesn't want to hand over the gadgets to Bond, knowing what Bond's reputation is like for basically destroying everything that Q builds. So to link in with my favourite Q in the field scene, we have this promotional material from Avis Car Rental. So basically, if you rented a car from Avis, you were entitled to claim 2 free tickets to the showing of Tomorrow Never Dies back in 1997. And this is the card that would have been given to the client, which they needed to send off to claim their free ticket offer. Now, on the front here we have, well, it's like a book really. You've got Paris, Carver and Bond there, and then you've also got Bond on the back. And then inside you have all the details on how to claim your free tickets. Looking at it, you only had a short time, or a short window, to actually get this sent off. So yeah, it's a nice item. It's a piece of promotional material, which is always one of my favourite things in the Bond room.
Q Branch being out in the field is one of the highlights of the James Bond series. It doesn't happen in every film, but when he goes out there, you know it's always something special and remarkable. One of the times that always stands out to me is the opening moments of The Living Daylights. Q Branch has been assigned to assist James Bond with the defection of General Koskov from the Soviet Union. They used the Trans-Siberian pipeline to smuggle him from Czechoslovakia to Austria. As he comes in through this transportation device that's been set up, Q opens up the hatch and he welcomes the general to Austria. Once there, they run up this intense flight of stairs as they prepare Koskov for flight, and Q kind of struggles to get up those stairs after a while. You can definitely tell age has been wearing down on him a little bit, and once he gets to the top there, he has to take his medication and kind of regain his breath a little bit. Even though it's one of those things where it kind of shows the timeless nature of Q, it definitely looks like he might be a little bit out of his league running up all those stairs all that time. But for the most part, it's always nice to see him out there in the field, and especially when you can see him build one of his contraptions and actually run it himself, as opposed to just saying along to one of the agents to run it. Always a very cool moment and a very cool scene.
Absolutely, Brian. Q catching his breath speaks 1,000 words. He clearly is not used to being involved in the action, and he hates being thrust into Bond's lifestyle, and it's all a big inconvenience to him.
For me, the best example of, or one of the best examples of Q in the field is in Octopussy. And I say this because as I've watched it, as I've got older and in more recent years, I've started to pick up maybe this is where the father figure that Q become in later films began. And I don't know if that's intentional or if it's not even there and I'm just picking up on something that's nothing. But for me, you see Bond turn up at Q branch in India, and Q is frustrated, he's tired, he's fed up, he doesn't want to be there, it's all too last minute, he's out of his comfort zone, and Bond is being very childish and juvenile, and that just frustrates Q further to the point where he's sort of almost saying, "Hish, gadgets, can you go our way now and get out of my hair?" Which is what you do to your kids when you're busy and they're coming in and being annoying and childish. You're like, "Here you go, take that, off you go, please." So that sort of was the first thing I picked up on. And then later on the beach, he says Bond's on an island inhabited by women. That's a bit of a joke at Bond's expense. He's playing his own game a bit. And then in the hot air balloon, when Bond says, "Oh, if it runs on hot air, you'll be able to run this fine, Q." Again, he just lets it wash over him without reacting, like you do when your kids take the mick. You just let it go over your head. And I just think, as I say, whether it's intentional, whether I'm just picking up on something that isn't there, for me, the dynamic was starting to change and the character was starting to grow into a father figure. He was accepting that Bond was never going to change. He's always going to be childish, adolescent. M says it in Goldeneye, he has a cavalier attitude. And I think Q slowly coming around to accept it. I think, okay, if he's going to act childish, I need to act like a father figure to deal with him. And that, for me, is where it started and where it began. And that's why I enjoy Octopussy as a great example of Q in the field with Bond.
Great analysis there, Shaun. Yes, Q treats Bond like a child at times. In fact, in Octopussy, he said he hasn't got time for these adolescent antics. And Bond is like a kid in a toy shop, always messing with equipment, trying to act cool, disrupting Q's work, and he just keeps picking things up. Remember Goldeneye?
007, do please try and return some. Do please try and return some of this equipment in pristine order. Don't touch that. It's my lunch.
So if you've enjoyed this brief episode having a look at some of the suggestions of Q in the field, then please give this episode a MI6 stamp of approval and click on the notifications below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any further missions and you stay in the loop. And you can find me on Facebook and on Instagram, so please knock on the door and I'll let you in. And you can also find me occasionally co-hosting with Tom Pizzato and Dan Silvestri at spymovienavigator.com, cracking the code of spy movies. So check that out too. Many thanks today to Andrew, Bryan and Shaun for their input into this episode. And I'd like to thank you for joining me at the Bond Room Unlocked.
Think we understand each other?
Grow up, 007.